hopefully helpful conversation. I would go back and watch. I'm going to go back and watch the video again because I think that video was just gold. Everything that he talked about. And by the way, Alyson, in the video that they just watched on online and offline um, marketing and social media, Brian actually did a demonstration of an open house. His, which I haven't seen for years and years. So this was a brand new one that he just did, and it was super. It was very concise and like not even as good as yours, but he did.
Oh,
He did
I'm sure it wasn't. I mean, Brian Buffini versus Alyson Roach.
But Alyson, it was a very basic. It took like what 5 minutes. The video part of it probably took 5 minutes or so. But he gave some really good foundation. And so with that, I'm gonna let you take this if you're ready, Alyson. Did all of you watch Alyson's amazing video, like movie star? That was fantastic. So if you have any feedback about any of that, questions, Alyson, you can lead this and guide through. We'll ask questions in between or throw stuff up in the chat, whichever way you want to do this. So,
all righty. How much time do we have?
Alyson Roach extraordinaire.
Yeah.
You have until 1:00.
Okay. Question and answer. So you guys watch the video. I won't go through all the nuts and bolts of it, but my basic message on it is, and this is just my personal approach that works for me. It's not anything anyone taught me. I don't know what Brian Buffini has to say about open houses, but I don't throw all of my energy at every single person who walks in the door. I think we've all had the experience, or if you haven't, you will, where there are people who walk in the door who you feel like you can start a conversation with, who you have a connection with, who you want to be your client. Those are the people I'm looking for. I'm not going to waste time or energy because you can only pay attention to so many people. So I'm going to make the meaningful connections. I'm not going to try to throw 100% at every single person who's coming through the door. And there will be people who are receptive to your attention, who you can make an investment of your energy with, who will hopefully come back to you. And then there are folks who want to get in and get out, and they're going to treat you like you have the plague or you're the kiosk person at the mall. And if they want to get the hell out of there, don't stop them. Find someone who wants to talk to you and who needs you to scoop them up and take them through the process. Those are the people you want. If they're standoffish or if they already have an agent, then that's cool. Then they're here to see the house, and then you're going to give them the information they need. The second point is, if you're holding a house open for someone else, the value of networking with other agents is one of the greatest things the biggest return on my investment in energy in this business has been networking with other agents and making friends with people and helping them out, and then they will help you out with their advice and experience and sometimes referrals. So do them a solid and give them great feedback. You get the buyer clients who are unattached, but if there's someone who is attached, they have an agent, they're showing strong interest in the house, let the listing agent know. Tom and Nancy Freeman, who are represented by Gala Leathers, really interested, you should get in touch with Gala. And agents really appreciate that, having a list of agents to call back. And I've gotten fantastic response from that. And that's a great way to get your foot in the door when you do have those open houses for people who are really experienced and maybe not interested in the first time home buyer client. They're at their capacity, then they'll start giving those people to you. So what else? Be safe about your open houses. So I say in the video, don't let anyone lure you into the Silence of the Lambs basement. It's a completely reasonable expectation that you're going to stay by the door and greet people. Don't let people in early, and don't let people stay late. The objective there is to not be in the house alone with a stranger at a time when God knows when anyone else is going to come. We all deal with that risk assessment as agents, what are you willing to do? And for me, I'm not willing to let people in early and late and be isolated with people I've never met, and it's not even on my calendar. Like I, when I do showings, I put the name of the people I'm going out with and the address I'm going to in the calendar, and I send a calendar invitation to my husband. So he's got all my appointments on his calendar. So he at least knows where I went and who I went there with if he needs to retrace my steps. And an open house, it's a little more loose. So I think that's important for safety. And hopefully we're all thinking about that more than ever.
Good idea.
Yeah.
So calendar.
Yeah. Other than that, I tried all kinds of elaborate things like having a drawing for people, like come to the open house and I'll enter you into a drawing for a gift card. I ended up like people who won it were people who already had agents. So I just kind of wasted my money. So I don't do that anymore. In non-COVID times, once in a while, I'll have like a snack. I'll usually do cookies and then something more healthy. And sometimes that'll help keep people slow them down and talking more, but I don't find that it makes that much of a difference. I would say if that's fun for you, do it. It's fun for me. Open houses can be a little tedious. So making it feel like a little bit of a party can be fun. I don't think, I haven't like sold a house because I had cookies there.
No, not even the chocolate chip ones?
No, I maybe Hy-Vee is not the magic recipe, but it does make it more fun. And you know, you only go around this earth one time. You might as well eat some cookies while you're doing your open house and chat.
Hey, Alyson, would you, I know that this was in the video, but this is how we can generate some conversation too, is talk about, okay, I have a listing. First, about the conversation that you will have with your clients. That's one of the things I'd love to hear, like before you schedule an open house. Not everybody wants an open house. So what do you do and how do you talk to them? Then how do you prepare your clients for an open house? And then the next thing I'd like you to talk about is, okay, from this point, they said, yes, open house, they've agreed to this time. What do you do? What do you do to prep for it?
Please do drop your questions in the chat or ask them so I don't feel like I'm pontificating here and we fill this time with stuff that's valuable to you. But okay, so for the most part, in my experience, clients have been comfortable having open houses, even during COVID. There was a period of time where I just wasn't doing them unless it was a vacant house. That has changed, and most of my seller clients have been comfortable with doing the open. When I have a listing, I usually will give them, I call it a marketing timeline, and it's everything from, I give them a due date for giving me back the listing paperwork because I want that back. Like a lot of you guys are new, right? So when you have a listing, you're investing money in your photography, your pre-inspection, maybe you have that professional measuring done. I want a signed listing agreement before I start outlaying any cash. So I give them a due date for giving me the paperwork back. I include that in the marketing timeline. I'll say, here's when the pictures are going to be, here's when the sign goes on the ground, here's when the lockbox goes on the door, all that stuff. And I include the open house in there. And we usually ask them if they're comfortable with me doing it. And most of the time people say yes, but I just include it. It's part of the timeline and the package. In terms of preparation, you know your listing. And if you're holding it open for someone else, then you just have to educate yourself. But I have done open houses in occupied homes that I was pretty damn sure that this client was going to have everything on point and ready to go and looking beautiful and smelling acceptable. And I've done open houses at houses where I knew that this seller is a hot mess and the way they live is perplexing and horrifying. You gotta read the room and know how early you need to get there. And so if you feel like you need to get there an hour early I will take out the trash and wipe down the counters and do all that stuff if I need to. if I think that it's going to be pretty ready to rock, I'll usually give myself 20 or 30 minutes. If it's a house I've never ever been to, I'll give it 20 or 30 minutes and go in, lock the door behind you. Don't put your sign up yet and get the lay of the land. Look through the whole thing, look at the disclosure, and kind of put two and two together. If they say they had water in the northeast corner of the basement in 2012, go look at it, see what it looks like, ask questions if you need to ask questions of the list agent, and just be prepared to answer questions. If there's a pre-inspection, read through the pre-inspection and be prepared to answer questions on that. I have definitely been in the situation where I was coming in hot 5 minutes before the open house and I hadn't even looked at the basement before I put the sign up. Like, I'm guilty of that. I've done that before. And it doesn't reflect well on anybody, and it'll make you uncomfortable and feel flustered the whole time. So give yourself 20 or 30 minutes to get a feel for what the house is like and be able to answer questions. I also, so this is a fun story. Before the first open house I ever did, I showed up super early. It had snowed. It was a vacant house, and I brought a shovel with me because I was pretty certain that nobody was going to remove the snow. That was correct. I shoveled the driveway and the walk, and it was almost time for the open house. And I lit a scented candle because it had that vacant old people smell. And I used the bathroom before it started and learned that the toilet did not flush. And then it was time to unlock the door and there were people out there. So I had to scramble around the house like between clients, and I finally found an empty soda bottle. So between clients, I'm filling it up, the tank, the toilet, little by little, to hope that I can flush it that way. So flush the toilet before you use it is my recommendation, and make sure it works. I've also baked cookies in the house, done that thing with the cheater cookies and burned the shit out of them, and then the house smelled like burnt cookies. So I don't do that anymore either. I just buy the cookies. And
Have you ever flushed the toilet and had it go over?
not yet. Not yet.
Or have somebody in a vacant house go in one of the toilets that when we used to have them winterized in the winter, and they would take the paper thing off the toilet seat and poop in the toilet, and then there's no water running. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
people think our job is easy.
It's glamorous. Like when you're taking out trash and picking up dead mice, and I picked up a dead mouse and put it in my pocket one time.
If this was a recruiting video, I think several people would say no. Okay, what else could I do besides real estate?
Well, that's like a pre-inspection, Carol. You weed them out before they get in too deep.
Exactly. That's very true. Hey, you have some questions up here.
Yeah.
How do you feel about music?
How do I feel about music
in general? What do you play? Do you have a playlist on your laptop and a Bluetooth speaker?
I do play music sometimes quietly. It depends on the house. So because I specialize in old houses, if it's a 60s house, I'll do like a little 60s playlist. If it's, a 20s one, I'll do kind of a 20s playlist. If it's just a regular, split level house in Millard, then whatever pre-made playlist that's like a dinner party kind of playlist is what I'll use. It's generally classy and instrumental for the most part. I do have Spotify Premium, so there's no commercials in it. The commercials kind of interrupt your flow, or you can create your own playlist. But I think like a dinner party sort of generic playlist like that is generally palatable to people, and it's not distracting, and I don't do stuff that has vocal.
I add to that, Alyson.
Yeah.
Jazz is always easy, and it's like the least offensive genre, if you will. So that's always a good one.
You can always tell when you go into a grocery store or one of the stores when people like under 22 are the people that are working and chose the music. I mean, I've gone in grocery stores where I've almost had a panic attack because of the music being like hard rock, and I was like running through the store to try to get my groceries. Yeah, Yeah. So
Maybe that's what you're going for. I don't know. Like, hey, read the room.
yeah.
Do I ask the homeowner to put away things? Yeah, I'll tell them put away your valuables and your cool medication. Most of the time, honestly, like I would say the vast majority of times when I do an open house, it's vacant. But yeah, you do advise people to put away valuable things and including medications.
That's good point.
Guns, if they're a gun collector, absolutely lock up, hide, remove guns from nightstands, especially if they're loaded.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I never thought about that because I don't keep a loaded gun in my nightstand.
Also,
but we're not getting
political signs during elections and things. Political signs, tell them to put them away. I've driven up to a house before with clients. This is a few years back, that wouldn't even go in the house because they didn't like the political signs. So anything that says that about themselves, anything personal, and particularly drugs. I can't say that enough. Stephanie Schroeder has some orange boxes that are medication boxes, and they're a lock. They have a lock on them, and she gives them away through the nonprofit that she's part of, that you can give to clients. And I've given those to a lot of clients, and they just pick up that box and take it with them when they leave for the open house. So that's
what about religious aspects, like religious items throughout the house?
Personally, I think that's a hard thing to tell people to take down their crucifixes. And I personally would not, I mean, that would be my preference, is to not have anything religious that talks about, before you do pictures. I think you can talk to people about that, because you always want them to take down their, I tell them to put away all pictures of children, of kids that they have on the walls. Anything that identifies their family that's going to, have somebody strange going through the house, and also stuff that's going to be on the internet.
So.
Cheryl?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Kristen, we can't hear you at all. Can't hear you at all.
Am I back yet?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, sorry about that. I address that right when we do the listing appointment, and I tell them that they want to neutralize their home as much as possible so that they can garner the most interest from a broad variety of people, because we're not catering to anything. I tell them that anything that is most important to them, and they don't want somebody to walk off with it, whether it's bills or statements of any kind of small electronics, all that stuff needs to be put away, because things will walk away. But as far as like,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, as far as, because I've had people ask me, should we take these down when it comes to religious paraphernalia? And I tell them to just, neutralize the home as much as possible, without actually saying, yes, you need to take that down.
Yeah.
You could just use your verbiage to keep it without crossing any lines or offending them.
Alyson, how do you manage the traffic of an open house during, we're still in COVID, just in case, a lot of people don't know that, but during this particular time, how do you manage the number of people coming and going?
I don't manage the number of people coming and going, is the answer to that.
If you're there, you don't have one group at a time, like on each floor or something. Okay.
Nope. I will make people aware of, like, I might tell them there's another group down in the basement, but if you want to start here, people seem to be capable and of distancing themselves, but I like, you could try to manage where people go and how distanced they are. I just don't do that. So I keep track of people as they come in, just tally marks. I hand them the sign-in form as they come in. I've actually not been doing that during COVID. That's one adjustment that I've made, is I'm not going to give people the same pen to write with over and over again. So in non-pandemic time, when hopefully hopefully the vast majority of your career is taking place during not a worldwide deadly pandemic. So I'll talk more about that than I do about pandemic time. But non-pandemic time, someone comes in the door, I greet them, I hand them the clipboard and the pen and have them sign it. I don't have like a protracted conversation where I convince them to sign it. I hand it to them and then they sign in because they just do. And if they
What do you
don't,
have on
then
there?
what?
What information do you ask for?
For their name, I sent you a copy of the one that I usually use if anybody wants it. Ask them for their name, their phone number, or their email address. If they're working with an agent, are they buying, selling, or both, or
Okay.
neither? And that's just a thing that they circle.
What do you do if they say no, they don't want to fill it out?
Then I say okay, and then they go look at the open house. I don't care. I'm not going to spend any time jacking around with that person. Like, I'm not going to argue with them. I'm not going to detain them at the door. Like, fine, do your thing. I'm trying to make this like not a torturous experience for myself, right? And I'm looking for the people who I'm connecting with. So I hand them the clipboard. 99% of the time they sign in or they write some squiggly nonsense on it. I don't care. They go look through the house. And then when they're on their way out is when I have the meaningful conversation with them for the most part. I don't assault them immediately with, do you have an agent? I'd love to be that person for you. You're buying or selling a home. Do you have an agent you'd refer someone to? And I let them get their bearings and do their thing and get comfortable before I try to start up anything with them. So, and the cool thing is they've just walked through this open house. You have a natural conversation starter right there. Again, like for me, I'm into old houses and that's what I love to do. So I'll bring up something about it like, oh gosh, did you see that cool mid-century bar in the basement? Or sometimes there's something like really kooky and weird about it. And so I'll be like, so did you like the carpet in the bathroom? I know that's probably number one on your list. And then they'll laugh about it and be like, oh no. We'll talk about the carpet in the bathroom and then we'll have a meaningful conversation there. Yeah. I never like get cruel about making fun of a house, but you know, we'll have some, nobody wants carpet in the bathroom. We'll have some lighthearted fun with that. So that's when I start the conversation, is when they're on their way out. And
Can I add to that, Alyson?
Yeah.
I don't do a whole lot of open houses anymore, but when I have done them, I like you said, you know, let them walk in and just look at the house. That's what they came to do, was look at the house, whether they've got nothing else to do or they're really there to try to look at that house. Let them look at the house. And then I would always ask when they would walk out, and you do have to pick and choose who you speak to, because, you know, Mary and her daughter on a walk that look at open houses every Sunday are not there to pick up a realtor. They have nothing else to do. They're just being nosy. Limit your conversation with people like that. But the ones that do look like they would be viable prospects, the first thing I would do is I would just say, hey, ask a lot of open-ended questions. What did you think of the house? Like Alyson would say, like, pick something out about the house that's either quirky, different. And if you can get them talking and they'll talk to you, you just have to ask the right questions to find out. And I ask pretty early on, like, who are you working with? Who's helping you find a house? Because then if you know they're working with a realtor, you know you're not going to keep asking a lot of questions. You're just going to answer the questions they need and move on. But I think the key thing is that you use an open house to put prospects in front of you. But at the end of the day, if they don't want to talk with you, if they don't want to work with you, if they don't want to deal with that part of the real estate process, you just let them walk out the door. Because chances are, even though they may not be working with a realtor, they might be considering buying, and they'll actually sit down and say, look, we, you know, went to several open houses and you just seem to really know your stuff. And you really, you know, you didn't pressure us. You didn't, whatever. I liked you. You, whatever, you know, you smelled like burnt cookies. Remind me of my mom growing up. So who knows? But I think that's the key thing, is you cannot pressure people. It's not a used car sales lot. I mean, depending on how you look at it, you're opening the house up to sell the house. And at the end of the day, you're also picking up clients. So
I think one of the nice ways to get to the do you have a realtor question, if that feels it, the longer you do this, the more you'll feel comfortable with these conversations. But one of the nice ones is, so are you selling your house and buying another one? Or, and so if they're selling their house and buying another, they'll start to tell you stuff like, oh no, this is our first time. And then you can say something like, have you been looking for a long time? Oh no, we're just doing open houses. Oh, do you have an agent that you're working with, or have you just been kind of dipping a toe in? So you can get to that conversation. And if they tell you like, yeah, my house is listed with Raquel Alvers, then I know that person's taken care of. That's fine. I have had
Then you can be like, here, call me. No,
you're not supposed to do that.
don't do that. That will actually get you in trouble.
Yeah, that's an ethical violation if you try to steal someone else's client. However, there is no rule against them meeting you and dumping their agent and going with you if you're not pressuring them. And that I have had happen where I had folks who were like, we met you and we spent 5 minutes talking to you and you answered more questions for us than our previous agent had in 3 months of looking. And then they switched. They have the option to do that, but you're not going to actively pursue some. It's like, if somebody's married and you're single, you're not going to actively pursue that person. But if they leave their spouse and call you when they're divorced, that's a different thing. Right. So,
great analogy.
yeah. Not going to do anything unethical, but if they come to you, and they've broken it off, that's fine. They're allowed to make that decision. They're allowed to make the best decision for themselves on who represents them. A couple other questions here. What do you bring? Bring your open house rider for the top of the sign. I would just assume that you need to bring that. And if you're holding the house open for somebody else, make sure that you understand who is advertising the open house in terms of getting it updated in the MLS. So if I have a listing and you're holding it open, we'll make the arrangements. We'll establish what time and what day you're doing the open house. And then then you're going to ask me, are you going to have that updated in the MLS, or should I reach out to someone to do it? Just make sure someone's updating in the MLS and putting what time your open house is. Bring your directional signs, bring your open house rider, and then go ahead and promote that open house on your own social media. I said this in the video, but I'll reiterate that. You don't have to make a bunch of disclaimers about like, this is not my listing, this is someone else's listing. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. All you're saying is, I'm holding this house open. Here's all the great stuff about it. Here's when to show up. That's all you need to do with that. Please leverage that opportunity on your social media, because especially as a new agent, you're looking for reasons to make posts. And this is a little news event. It's going to live on your social media forever, even though it's only 2 hours out of your life. And it's a chance to make an impression, because when people are looking at your, what you're all about, if they're looking online, they're going to come across your social media and they need to see consistent, high quality posts. So think of it as you're building like a long-term resume for yourself. And this is a little news event. So maybe you want to get elaborate with it and do like a little Facebook Live before the open house starts. Like, here's some sneak peeks, come see me at 2:00. Or sometimes it's just like, maybe you make a little graphic in Canva, or maybe you just share a picture of the open house or the house that you're holding open and put the details in there. Just having content in your social media is important, having it be consistent. And this is an opportunity for you to do something that you don't have to be that creative about. This is a pretty straightforward thing. I'm holding this house open. So take that opportunity. I'm going to look at some questions in the chat now. Before I close up, do I walk through to make sure everyone has left? So I'm keeping kind of an inventory of people as they come in and out. I'm usually am fairly aware of who's still there. However, once I do close up, I do walk through one more time. You have to go through and turn off the lights anyway. So that's the time when I check and make sure that nobody's left over. But yeah, you do have to pay attention.
Jennifer has a question for you also, Alyson. Or
Yeah,
did you get
Jennifer.
that answered, Jennifer?
No, I just added it. I
Oh,
added it
okay.
at the bottom. It was just regarding the sign up sheet. If they already indicated they were working with someone, do you still inquire about it? Since they already told you that they did have a realtor.
Not really. If they tell me, so usually they'll tell me, and so they say they have a realtor. Do I ask them, do they have a realtor? No.
Yeah, they signed in your sheet saying that they had somebody. Do you still inquire about it
No,
at your, okay.
no. And even in a conversation where we've talked about, and they've told me they have a realtor, I've still had that people come back to me a week or two later and say, it's not really working out with Tony Bonanza. Can we talk about working with you? And, but no, if they say so, and I don't just ignore them and treat them like cast them aside. I'm still like totally cordial and nice. I'm still trying to sell the house to them and make a connection and answer their questions. But I'm just not going to be as active in pursuing them.
Alyson, on Jennifer, on that note, I've done it where if they're the only ones in the house and there's no one else, I mean, it never fails. There's always that prime prospect that's walking by you and you're stuck talking to someone else. But if I'm not, if like Alyson was saying, if I can see some value in talking to this client, I might ask them. You know, if they say, oh, well, we're working with a realtor, I'll just simply say, oh gosh, who are you working with?
Mm-hmm.
And that does two things. One, it forces them to come up with a name. So if they're just faking it, it's funny how they always go, oh, I can't remember her name.
So many.
And you never know. And sometimes if I do find out they're working with someone, if they're like, oh, we're working with Alyson Roach, I'm like, oh my God, I love her. She's in our company. And then what I'll do is if it is somebody that I know, I'll call Alyson and say, hey, Tom and Mary came through just to let you know, which I think is really great because for me, when client agents have done that for me, it is a great touch point with my clients to call them and say, hey, I heard you went through 123 Main Street. What'd you guys think of it? You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
and
And it's
in a
fun.
normal market, you can do that. In this market, they're calling you before their foot is out the door if they want it. But it's nice because it's a good way to keep in touch with your clients and keep in with what your clients are doing and keep on the good graces of other realtors to, you know, help them. And if not, if they're working with an idiot, I shouldn't say that. Sorry. It's been a long couple of days. If they're working with somebody that's not a great realtor, you know, you know that by answering their questions and providing them the information that they need, you know, you might be the one they call in 2 or 3 weeks. And some of
Alyson,
those
do
you
you
just
do
have
all of your own open houses on all your listings?
me or Alyson.
Alyson, and then any one of the rest of you.
Yes, because I'm at the point in my career where every listing I have, I'm like throwing a party, and really like for me, I'm still more buyers than sellers, and in fact, that's my goal this year is to get 50-50. So I do every one of my open houses. I could see a future where maybe I was going to delegate it if I needed to, but for the at least right now the way I feel about it is it's a service that I do for my seller. Even if I don't feel like this is going to be the thing that sells the house, it's something it's very tangible for a seller to see that you've spent the time and that you're doing regular open houses and you're trying to do them. Maybe if you've got a listing that's sitting at different times and maybe you're hosting a broker open, sometimes those are things that you do just so your seller can see you taking action. They're not seeing you behind your computer doing all the rearranging pictures and doing all the stuff that we know you're doing behind the scenes. So if you're doing stuff like having open houses that they can see you do, if you're sending out postcards, make sure they get a postcard in the mail, like send them to their work, like really like make sure they're seeing what you're doing. And that's just sometimes that you're doing it just to show them that you're taking action.
I think that's key because and I hope you guys all get that the market that we are in is so not normal. You know, Kristen and Carol and I have all been through, and Alyson, you've probably been through enough of the normal market that, like you just said, there are times when you need to do an open house just to prove to your seller that you're doing something. Yeah. I go back and forth. I haven't done an open house for a long time, but I've also been doing this a lot longer. If my clients want an open house, if it's in the Midtown area of any kind, east of the interstate for the most part, I would do the open house myself most likely. If it's someplace else, or I don't have time to do one, for example, I don't have any problem having other agents doing an open house. But when you hold an open house, and I luckily, with all the years of doing this, I've only ever had one agent that it was a bad experience. When you hold an open house, even though it's not your listing, you are there on behalf of the listing agent, and you need to bring your utmost professionalism. You need to bring your A game, because you just don't go to an open house and then just sit on the couch and put your feet up on their coffee table and have one of the seller's best friends come through the open house and take a picture of this. That was a fun conversation.
I think that's a good point, and I want you guys to talk about this a little bit more. Is as kind of experienced agents, what is it that you want? What is it that you want to see in an agent who will do an open house for you, or even volunteers? Because I see you guys do know this. There's always emails. Anybody got an open house? Anybody got an open house? That's great. Actually, Tim was telling me about this, and we've kind of experienced it before and kicked ourselves, and then regrouped. He had an agent that was doing an open house for him, and the agent called 5 minutes before the open house was supposed to start and asked how to open a lockbox. Your whole life passes before you in that moment, because you screwed up, that you did not do any kind of criteria before and vet them. So just so they hear it from you guys, what is it? And Sheila, you're nodding your head, so I want you to join in too. So talk
Sure.
all of you, all y'all. What do you want from agents who do that?
My expectation for agents who would be holding open for me, or when I hold open for other people, is that they show up early, that they make preparations in the house as necessary. If there's a seller living there and they leave a banana peel on the counter, they're going to throw it away. That they open up on time, that they do not close up early, that they are knowledgeable about the house. So if I want them to read the condition disclosure and the description. Extra bonus points if they know something about the neighborhood. So drive around for a second, see if there's a park, a school, a playground, something like that nearby. Also extra bonus points if you know about what other open houses are in the area or for sale nearby, so you can talk with clients about what's, because people will refer to other houses for sale in the neighborhood, and they will say something like, oh, that blue one down the block for $485. Have some idea of what's going on in the neighborhood, so you can speak comfortably about it, or at least have some kind of response for people. What's the difference between this house for $450 and this one for $485? They're 2 blocks apart. Do a little bit of advanced research on that. What else? I do think it's important. I don't do too much micromanaging of people who come in and out of the open houses, but I do expect, if it's a shoes off situation, that they do take their shoes off at the door. And I'll catch people and say, oh, would you mind taking your shoes off? Or I'll bring those booties with me and people can choose the booties or the shoes off. I've never had anybody resist me on that. The worst I've ever had is this clown who was like, oh, I got to take my shoes off, but they obviously don't because the carpet was not perfect. Again, whatever. He can do what he wants. Take your shoes off, go through the open house and get out of here.
Whatever.
So you go, what is that? Whatever major?
That was perfect. That's like an emoji.
Yeah. And when people say snotty stuff to me like that, I'll just be like, yeah, great. Could you take your shoes off? Just say it again.
People like you is why their carpet looks like that. So if you could take your shoes off.
Yeah, that's a good segue. I could definitely say, yeah, I didn't catch everybody at the door.
It would be great to come up with a video that was just these really quick like things that we wish we could say.
Shit.
That's
Girl, mine would definitely be R-rated.
Exhibit A.
that would have to stay within the realtor community.
Yeah, but again, that's out of hundreds of, or maybe thousands of people that I've, been through an open house that I was doing. One guy was a little bit of a snot. So don't let like those exceptions become the rule. Like most people are reasonable and understand that they shouldn't be.
And on that note with the shoes, I will agree. People are really respectful, but watch out. People like to bring their coffees through their Starbucks. I, in the past, have asked them to leave them on the kitchen counter as they've walked through because it never fails. Some idiot always spills something. And I actually had a guy bring I don't remember, it was a burger of some kind. He had a sack there. I don't remember if it was McDonald's or Burger King. I was like, no, outside.
That would be part of the video right there.
Yeah, like there's some people just, some people, yeah, when the zombies attack, there's a whole list I got going of people I'm gonna trip.
In terms of weird things, we're kind of like switched gears here, but I had one time somebody bring their like toy poodle to an open house, and I did ask them to not bring their pet inside. Yeah. And I am speaking only for myself, disclaimer here. There, I'm sure, are lots of arguments to be made about what if it's a special service animal or whatever. This is a private residence. You cannot bring an animal in here.
You do need to have permission from the seller.
That's a really great way to phrase that. But if someone feels entitled to bring their poodle in, I disagree with that, and I'm not going to let them bring this pet. So I have stood firm on that before. And did they like it? No. Did I think they were a serious buyer? No. They were someone walking by with their little doggy. So that's where I'm in that. What other questions do you guys have?
But just kind of, I know you sort of touched on this. If it is, a seeing eye dog, an emotional support animal, has anyone been in that situation before? I don't know. Because obviously, yeah.
I like your approach of we need permission from the seller. It's a private home. This is not a public space. And so for me to make the determination that it's okay for someone to bring any kind of animal into my seller's space, I don't think that's my place to do. I think perhaps it is a necessary service animal for that potential buyer, but my seller lives here. Yeah. This is their house.
I think the way that you just take that is you would just explain to them that, I can't speak for the seller on this. If you are interested, we would be happy to set up a private showing with you and your realtor.
Love that.
If you have not contacted a realtor, it's not, again, it's nothing personal. It's like Alyson said, it's a private home. These people can do what they want. I, have to look out for my client.
Right.
And then the snarky side of
they may have allergies too to pets.
Allergies are the biggest thing.
And some people are just like, I don't want a dog in my house, or
dogs are just dirty. I mean, and
I don't know if that's going to pee
I have one,
or it's going to fight with the homeowner's cat, or
yeah.
Like I personally don't dig dogs, and I don't want a big old dog in here with me. Like,
and really, if it's a seeing eye dog, I mean, how much of the house are you going to see anyway? So
I kind of had that thought, but I'm glad you said it and not me.
But that's where you just say, I think it would be best, since I don't know what the seller's stance is on having a pet in their home, or you should say animal, having an animal in their home.
Yeah.
I think it would be best if we set up a private showing with you and your realtor. And then that way you're not going to be bothered by anybody else. And if they're
Sure.
really standoffish, I think you just have to stand your ground that it's a private residence. No, nobody is. Nobody's
Okay.
gonna be standoffish.
Well, because I guess like in this market, I could see some people giving you a lot of pushback, like, no, like, I know your open house is going to be done in an hour, but like, what if you get an offer before? You know what I mean? So
They
I
should
don't
have brought
know.
the realtor.
Yeah, that's fair.
One of those like rare exception things, like you can't cater your whole policy to.
Yeah. And I
to
think that
discomfort.
also goes with communication from a realtor, realtor to realtor, setting the expectation up early and the confirmation, if that is, and the chances, of that happening just in a regular, I don't think I've ever had to deal with that in 19 years, but if I did, I love what you said, Raquel, because that is my representation with the seller, and really what you're there for is the representation of the seller. So I think exactly what you said, plus adding, if they want to if the seller is okay with it, they want a private showing, they can, we'll take care of helping with that. So I don't know what else you would do.
And like I said, I've only ever had this once where somebody just felt like entitled to bring their leashless toy poodle into this house. Like, hopefully that doesn't happen to you. Maybe they have a chihuahua in their purse and I will, whatever. But
Sometimes you'd rather let them bring the toy poodle in and leave the children outside, but America frowns on it when you tie the children up outside.
Yes, that would be a bigger problem. Yes. Yeah.
That's when, like, we got a kennel out back. You can put your kids back there.
For some reason, people think that when they come into an open house that their kids are just free. Run, child, run. Go touch things. Yeah. So some people, not everybody.
Most people are so paranoid about their kids behaving well and having it be a moment where they can teach them respect. Like, most people are operating in good faith.
Yes.
Once in a while you have a weirdo, but or someone who just will not stop talking to you. And then you have to just, like, this is a life skill of getting out of uncomfortable conversations. I'm still mastering that one.
That's a hard one. It's hard to master.
It is. The best thing you can do is say, I'm going to need to, excuse me, I need to say hi to these folks over here.
Yeah. Well, be political. That's what politics do. In like those, when you watch on TV, like in those, when they go to a cocktail party or something, and they're like, "Excuse me for just a second," but they make sure they have somebody else that's there to come in and relieve them. So,
I need to grab him over there. Or I mean, I've even done the like Southern phone thing of, I'm going to let you get on with your day.
Southern phone thing. That's great. I'm going to let you go. Yeah.
I'm gonna let you go.
I know you're busy.
But it was great talking to you. And give me a call sometime. Like, end it.
Yeah.
End it. Like, and then you don't want to hang out with that succubus anymore. Don't answer their call.
Sheila, do you have anything to add to that, to where we are right now, or any part of this conversation?
Well, on the expectations of the agent doing the open house, I just had a couple of things to add. Allison's list was awesome. It was really great. I would say as an agent, do engage with everybody that walks through the door. When my clients say, hey, we'll just go into this open house, I always go with them if I'm available, just like it's a regular showing. And I've gone into some where the agent hardly looks up. They don't get up. They don't do anything. And it's just me as an agent going into that, I'm less like, wow, they were completely worthless. So even if they say, hey, yeah, we have an agent, it's still okay to talk to them. You just don't want to like nag them, but obviously ask questions and, thank them for coming and engage with them at some level. I usually bring my computer with me if I do an open house. I haven't done an open house for a long time. But then if you do get some questions about such and such a house that you don't know anything about, like Alyson was saying, if you can do your homework ahead of time, great. But if you can't, if you have your computer there, you can at least pull it up and give some information and talk about it. And then the other thing I was just going to mention was it's okay to call the listing agent of that home that you're going to hold open and ask questions. Is there anything interesting I should know about this house, anything that I wouldn't be able to see in the description or on the seller property condition disclosure. Because they've had lots of conversations with the sellers and they're going to know some little inside things that the general public wouldn't know. So it's good to ask those questions too.
Yeah. When are you looking at offers? That'll be the big question these days. So I treat the open house like a retail job. I don't sit when there's people in the house. If there's nobody in there, that's a different story. But as soon as someone comes up to the door, I am on my feet by the door. I don't bring my computer because I don't want to get robbed. I will pull stuff up on my phone, or if I'm super ambitious, then I'll bring the list of other nearby houses for sale or open houses. I've even done a thing where I noticed there were a whole bunch of open houses. It was in Benton, all on the same day in the same time frame. So I called each of those people, those list agents, and said, "Hey, I'm holding this one open. Do you want to send each other, send our clients or the people who come back and forth?" That was kind of fun to do. And I would talk to all of them like, "Oh, there's another one down the street. It's a little smaller, but worth checking out. Favorably compare mine to the other ones."
Well, and that's a great way, you guys, if you start to see a lot of like Better Homes or even other brokerages in your like the Benson area, and you say, "Hey, look, I'm going to do an open house. Mine's at 2305 North 67th. Do you guys want to do an open house?" And then you guys can advertise it all together, and then people kind of get that mentality of, "Oh, look, there's like 4 or 5 in the area." And I do that too, where I'm like, "Oh yeah, there's one down the street. It's a little smaller. It's not quite as updated. It's ours is the 60s. Theirs is more like the 40s."
It's a good way to see what you get for the money.
Yeah. Ours smell like burnt cookies.
Yeah. This one has a working toilet.
Exactly. That's worth $5,000 right there, isn't it?
I would pay $5,000 for a working toilet in my personal home. I don't know about everybody. But
well, when we showed houses during the recession, and every 70% of the houses were actually, it was, in other areas it was higher, but a very large amount of the houses were in foreclosure or pre-foreclosure, and electricity was turned off, water was turned off. You'd have to sit there for 2 hours, no toilets working, freezing cold, and no furniture. And plus they may have ripped out the wiring and the plumbing. And so, yeah.
You'd still hold that bad boy open, huh?
You had to. I mean, there were 7,000. When we moved here, there were 7,500 houses on the market.
It used to be that was how you had to sell houses.
Yeah,
because they were on the market.
The only way you could, and kind of manage it, or you'd show them. You'd show houses that were like that, and then it'd have to go into dark basements that I would just go like, you know what? If that's really an important thing for you to see, I'm gonna let you go down there with your flashlight, and you just tell me whether you like it or not. And then if we were going to do anything with it, we'd look at it. But yeah, hell no, I'm not doing that. Especially with somebody that it's when I used to take clients that I didn't know, or that way. So
yeah, we could have a whole like weird experiences session.
Yeah,
cool spotter stories.
Part 4, 5, 6, and 7. Yeah. Okay, so
I want to pick up a question in the chat and then talk about follow-up real quick. Bridget's asking about if they say they have another realtor and they want to switch to me, do I ask if they have an agreement signed, and do I check with the other realtor? It's not common in our marketplace for buyer's agents to sign agreements with their buyer clients. I don't ask them for that. I haven't signed an agreement with that other realtor, and if the person comes to me and says, I don't want to work with Joe Schmo anymore, I want to work with you, I just take that at face value and go with it. I call their loan officer and start with them just like they're a normal, any other client. Most people, I don't know, Kristen, Sheila, Raquel, are you guys signing buyers agreements with people? Nobody does it, so I wouldn't worry about it. That would be like the 1 in 100 client. And
we don't do that. Nah. I never have.
And it's not binding anyway. There's nothing really it would be a totally it's just a paper tiger. So I don't play games with people and make them sign stuff that isn't real. Okay,
Any
follow up.
comment?
So I send if I'm holding open for another person, I send them how many people came, what the general feedback was. If there was some loon who said something mean or unkind, I don't include that. But if everyone said they loved this and they had questions about that, I'll tell that agent that's useful information. I write it in a way that they can copy paste it to their client. So write it in a way that's kind, conscientious, professional, so they can make it easy for them. This many people there, they loved the master bathroom. A lot of people wanted to know how old the roof was, something like that. Again, I will tell them if there's anyone who had particular interest in who their agent was. And if there was someone who had particular interest and didn't have an agent, then I keep that information for myself. That's my potential client, and I follow up with that person individually. If I'm holding it open for a seller, I'll tell them how many people were there and again what the general feedback was, and I'll tell them I'm following up with 5 people who seemed pretty interested. So that's my spiel on that. But don't forget the feedback, especially to your fellow agents. You're networking, and like referrals from other agents are totally a thing. I've had more agents refer business to me than you would believe. Either they can't handle the clients, they're I'm going to have shoulder surgery next week, I'm going to have a baby next week. When you're first starting out, you're happy to take the 165 VA clients. Like that's where like at least 50% of my business came from the first year or two.
So I would like you to answer the question that somebody asked about what exactly you do when you close up the house, but at the same time, and any other agents who've done this can answer this too. Do you ever do an open house with 2 agents, with somebody else? And if the house is like a really big house, have you ever done that? The only time we've done it is when it's a really big house. We had a Linden Estates house that was 6,000 square feet, and we had actually 3 people, 1 on each floor, to do open houses. So do you do that? Do you recommend it? All of the above. And how do you?
I've been the extra agent on those. So like Tim's had a couple of listings that were club bangers, and we knew there were going to be hundreds of people literally in and out. I've done those with him. I brought my mentee on some. If I did have an exceptional property, a large one, or one that I thought we were going to have massive traffic, I would definitely consider bringing somebody with me for those. And if as a new agent, when you're considering open houses or you're asking other agents for open houses, maybe there's a certain neighborhood you want to work in. Maybe like for me, like if it's a cool old historic listing, and it's an agent who I feel comfortable and I know can I hold that open for you on Saturday? And they always say yes. So, and then your question about closing up. So at the time, when it is time to close up, generally there's not a lot of lingerers there, but I lock the door on the dot. And if there are people still in there, I'll let them out, or I'll start turning lights off, and I'll say, look, don't mind me. I'm just going to start getting closed up. Gotta run to my next appointment. I get them the hell out of there, like they do it in a store. Again, I don't want to be stuck like that. When you hear about, and I hate to keep going back to this, but when you hear about bad things happening to realtors, it's someone comes in at the end of the open house and they hang out and they wait until they're not going to get caught doing bad things to you. So get them out of there. I stay by the door, turn the lights off, then go back to by the door. I take the sign down. Once everyone's out and we're all locked up and secure, if they've tracked a bunch of dirt in, like I'll clean up a little bit. I have no problem looking in people's cabinets and finding their vacuum and their broom and like getting some paper towels wet and wiping up all the schmutz that they bring in. But I'm not going to let the house remain a mess. Worst case scenario, I will call the seller and say, there's some like sidewalk salt that got tracked in. Can you tell me where your vacuum is? And sometimes I'll be like, man, don't worry about it. And I'll insist, and then they'll insist, but at least I've made an effort. Like I'm not going to just lay waste to their home and leave. So like conscientious about that kind of stuff. If it's a vacant house, they might not have that stuff available in there. You may consider, like, I keep a bottle of Windex and a roll of paper towels in my car, and that a bottle of Windex and a roll of paper towels will get you everywhere you need to go in life. So carry them around.
Toilet paper has helped too. When
Yeah.
rural vacant properties, you really do want to bring a roll of toilet paper in your car, in your trunk.
I have a tiny shovel too. It like folds up, and that thing has helped me out a lot in life as a realtor.
How do you handle somebody
exactly.
that's coming in at the very end of your open house? Like there's 2 minutes left.
I'll tell them, hey, come on in and take a quick look around. I'm gonna lock up and turn on lights while you're looking. I got to get out of here to get to my next appointment.
Okay.
Can I just add one thing to Alyson, to your, if somebody comes in and they're not, you're not feeling good about it, if you've made a connection with somebody else, if there's another couple still there, I have had this experience. I went to that other couple and I said, hey, this person just walked in. I'm not feeling comfortable. Would you mind staying here with me until everybody is gone? And they agree. So if you have somebody, otherwise just, you never know what could happen. But
I've
that guy
stepped
was
out and stood on the stoop before too.
Yeah,
Yep.
I have too. Just gone outside of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if the back door from the front door if the back door is in my sight line, sometimes I'll feel more comfortable unlocking that. If it's not, and I feel like that's more of a liability, I won't leave that open. But oh yeah, that's a great idea, Kristen. And like, men love to be asked to protect you.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Could you stick around?
Yeah.
I'm afraid.
And seriously, don't be afraid to ask for somebody to help you, because your safety is of the utmost importance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good, it's a good reminder too about always look for your exits when you come into a house and into a showing, as well as in an open house. One thing that I never did was like go upstairs or downstairs with just an individual person coming through. I would just tell them, you go take a look, and yeah. And always exit. Always know where your exit is and what it's going to look like. Don't make it hard.
And somebody suggested to me when I first started, as far as parking too, when you go to open house, even for showings, don't park in the driveway where somebody can pin you in.
That's a really good point.
Park on the street, or you park at the end of the driveway where nobody can park behind you, that you can back out.
If you have pockets, keeping your keys in your pocket with the alarm button on your keys sets the alarm off on your car if you feel like something's going to go on. Or your phone is also good, but your phone's a little more bulky, and a lot of times women don't have pockets, so I do. But
in your day-to-day experience with open houses is you're going to stand there and you're either going to be just bored as can be, and when someone comes in, you're going to be like, thank God. Or you're going to be so busy saying hi to people, you're going to feel like there's so many people, it's hard for me to zero in and give attention on somebody. And once in a while, there'll be a total swamp creature and they'll be rude, and you just let them come and go.
Do you insist on masks? Do you ever have a problem with people wearing masks?
I haven't really had any encounters, but I do bring disposable masks with me, and I just tell people, like, grab a mask and take your shoes off, or like, and they'll come in and they're like, welcome, blah, 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 3 bed, 3 bath. Go ahead and grab a mask, leave your shoes here, and I'll see you on your way out. Like, you're in control, you're the boss. Yeah. And if they push back on you, then you'll have to make a decision of like, am I going to tangle with this person, or am I going to let them be an asshole and come and go and get out of here? And generally I'm a come and go and get out of here person.
I wouldn't tangle with you, Alyson.
With the masks, though, yeah. With the masks, I would make sure that you find out from your seller, because I've had a couple of sellers this year that I had to kick out a buyer and the 2 adults with her and all 4 kids. We had to kick them out because they didn't wear masks walking in, and he saw it on the Ring doorbell.
Oh.
So I called and said, I need to ask you guys to leave immediately. I mean, we couldn't have made it more clear to wear masks. It was
good for you.
It was on the sign. There was a note inside that said, please Germex. So
what'd they say?
She was mortified, whatever. She just didn't even think about it, and it was fine. But I mean, she was nice. They left.
Oh my God.
But
How could you not think about it?
I was like, and this was like in the height of COVID. This wasn't like a month ago. This was in the height of COVID. And so we changed the sign to say, you must wear a mask. If you cannot wear a mask, I think we put on there, like, you have to reschedule or something, no exceptions. It's not the one that we were going to put up, but that's the professional one that got it. That was the final draft.
Calling the police.
Yeah.
And your seller will give you, if that's something that's of massive importance to them, they're going to make it known to you.
Yeah. The other thing you guys can do, and I think like Sheila made a really good point. I've heard that too early on, don't park in the driveway. And it's funny you brought that up because I think about that.
I just never do. Like,
I'm
the employee.
I don't park in the driveway only because I don't want to get stuck behind you putting your 4 kids in the car. Like, I have places to go. I'm like, move it. I usually wait till they're in the car and ready to leave before I leave. But if you're ever in at the end when somebody does walk in, don't hesitate to just like quick put a blurb out and see if somebody can come either pull your signs for you. Because I've had that happen where I kept having people coming in and I just couldn't get them to stop because my signs were out. It was just such a hot property. But if you ever feel uncomfortable, just pick up the phone and call your spouse, call Carol, call me, whatever. And 9 times out of 10, predators are looking for somebody that is not confident. They're looking for that opportunity that no one knows they're there. The minute they hear you talking to somebody, and it could be a fake phone call, just don't make a fake phone call and then have your phone ring. But just call someone and you know, have a code word with your friend or your spouse or something and say, nope, just wrapping up. No, oh, cool. No, you want to just meet me down the street? No, I got one guy left. No, you want to just come here? That would work, you know, and just kind of fake it until you kind of get a feel for where this person is going to go. And most people are going to be fine and they're going to get the cue that, okay, I need to wrap it up because she's got to get out of here.
I like that. And that's all the more reason to like look alive, be on your feet, greet every person, look them in the face, which is what you should do for your personal safety whether you're at an open house or in a parking garage. Look at people in the eyes and make sure they know that you're aware and you see them and you're not jacking around on your phone, sitting on the couch, totally unaware and unable to identify them.
Yes.
Great advice. And this this could go for hours. So this was incredible information. Alyson, thank you so much. And all of you all of you experienced agents that took your time. I'm just in awe about all of you just doing this. So thank you so much. And the rest of you, if you have continued questions, send them over to me. I'll get them over to all of them. And lean into your mentors, lean into these guys. Any one of them would be happy to answer any questions or take you on an open house.
Totally.
Share an open house with you. I mean, I love company when I was doing open houses.
Yeah.
I haven't done one in years. But I will tell you that when I first moved here, that was the way that I built my business, was doing open houses. And we have just, this last year, we sold a house, the 4th house, to somebody I met in 2007 or 8 when we first moved here. So you can build your database so quickly if you really know how to if you're not good at anything else but open houses, you're going to build your database. So, and these guys are all perfect to reach out to. So thank you so much. This will be recorded and the class before this. So it all goes up in the library. So thanks so much. And Alyson, primo. Very good.
That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila, Kristen, whoever else. Oh, there you are, Raquel. Thank you, all of you guys.
All right. Until next time.
Have a great whatever rest of the week is. Bye.